been there? Well, for architectural students, well, there are a few icons over there, and we're going to show you which icons we have. We have a small program for you. We start with a small introduction. We're not going to tell something about the work we do, but also how we do it. So we prepare the program for you. We tell something about the park, the history, and what we do for an engineering and consulting firm does. And we also have a bonus if we still have some time left today. And we will tell you something about our last week together and how we work together. Lily, she's a student here. She's going to introduce herself in the next sheet. Because I'm going to start by myself. I used to study here. I started exactly 20 years ago here. And it took me 10 years to finish the study here. My master was architecture. In those days, the average time of a student here was 9.5 years, reduced quite significantly in the past few years. And I've been working for Antea Group for the past 10 years. I started as a consultant, but the fun thing is we work for a company with more or less 2,000 people, and yeah, sometimes I'm a consultant, sometimes I'm a project manager, sometimes I'm an innovation coach, sometimes a change manager, and that's something I like to do. I like to do a lot. Yeah, like I said, I studied here 10 years ago, but somebody who's studying here right now is Lily. Yeah, so I'm Lily Spijkerburg. I'm still studying here. I did my bachelor's in 4 years, and I'm now doing my master's for my second year of the urbanism master, so I'm going to start my graduation from February on. And while I was studying, I wanted to do some working experience, so that's why I became a working student at Antea, and I'm already a working student for almost 2 years. And I'm a junior project engineer. What I do is try to help as much as possible with different projects and experience different types of projects in this field and see what I can do in the future and learn more about that. And next to that, I come here to tell you a bit about the VELUWE, and first I'm going to tell you a bit about the history. So, what's the history? It all started with Anton Kruller that started working at a company, Muller & Co. It's a shipping and trading company, and it was a company of the father of Helene Muller, and they became in love, and they started to become a couple in 1888, and since her father died, Anton Kruller took over the company, and they had a lot of money, and they had some hobbies, and one of the hobbies was hunting. So we started to look in the Netherlands, what's a nice place to hunt, and of course we got that through VELUWE. So we started buying parts of the land and started to make a big partial of a place where you could hunt. And in 1917, we already had 6,800 hectares of land there. And since they wanted to be there more because it's like beautiful nature, they built one of the houses there. It's called House from a very famous architect, Berlage. And Anna also had her hobbies, and her hobbies were arts and architecture. She loved everything of that. So that's why she was always looking for the best architects to build the buildings. Although they, for example, the VELUWE Museum, that's quite known as built by Van Velde. And that's how their story continues and how they're connecting so much art and so much nature in this place. You can tell them about the sad end. The sad end because Anton, he was trained in steel at first, and then he thought, oh, I can conquer the world also with brains and other sheeps, and then he found out that it wasn't that great. And their company became bankrupt. And for that, for the bankruptcy, the state, they wanted to retrieve their money, and they made a deal with the state. And that's what currently developed into the park. The state is owner, or used to be owner of the park, and with the promise that our three things stay together. And the same went for the art. the art also is still together, the collection of art is still together within this museum. And there are really famous art pieces, so I would recommend you to go there. And nowadays, yeah, you can visit it. You have to pay for it, and with the money, they pay us. And they pay for a nice and clean park, also the development of the park. And they thought about a strategic vision, and they wrote it down in this document. It's the roadmap between 2010 and 2025, and actually it should be finished. So there's most of the building projects. It takes some extra years to finish everything completely. And what is in this document? There's a strategic plan, but also the landscape development, the urban development, the architectural development, but also how to get money and where to pay for. And Antea Group helped the park in doing so. The park, they're more specialized in nature, not so much in buildings, and this is why they asked for a partner, a company who could provide all the services they need for their buildings and infrastructural projects. Oh, we're almost at the end, and I'm quite curious how the next 10 years will be like. We really did quite a lot, and we're going to tell you something about it, because within this plan, they define projects. You see them here. Those are projects on infrastructural scale, ecological scale, landscape development, but also, well, perhaps you've also heard about wolf, who is currently living over there, and it changes a little bit in the dynamics of the park, ecological dynamics, but also hydrological projects, architectural projects, urban design, and landscape design. And those projects are all over the park, from the north to the south, from the east to the west. And we're just going to focus a little bit on the central point at Centergebied. Because in this center, well, this is the old situation. You have a restaurant. There is, well, a landscape and an urban design, how to get there. There is it's a kind of a museum, but it's also an exhibition about the nature of the park. It's called the Museum. It goes under the ground. They talk about all the animals and all the things that you will find in the ground. And there is a bike repair shop, which I will tell you a little bit more about later. This was the old situation in 2010. And they made a landscape design. It was done by HNS architects. And the main thing is that what they try to create is a point within the forest, where the forest comes onto a square. A lot of buildings are placed around that square, and it should be an open place in the forest. If it's really like it, you should go there and experience it. But this is the thing that is the main idea about this landscape plan. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about the buildings, the four projects, because as Antea Group, we are responsible for the development of all those four projects. And as a company, we can do everything, but we like to collaborate, and this is one of the things. If you want to build something on the park, as an architect, you should be pretty famous. And we have all the famous architects in the Netherlands, from Rietveld, Verlaag, but also Zwartelpont in this case. And I will tell you about another famous architect a little bit later. But this is designed by Zwartelpont. Do you know this project? Somebody has already seen this? Well, the inside is also quite special. Backside. And what we did is all the engineering. So we collaborated together with the architects, but we, first of all, we were responsible for all the engineering, but later on also responsible for the whole development. We were the contractor. And usually as a consulting have security, and yeah, they wanted to have a grip on their money, so they said, who wants to develop this for a set price? And our company said, well, we're going to do that for you. So we were also responsible for the construction, and it was opened by our famous king. Who in this room can sum up a few expertises that you need to create a building like this? Yes, exactly. You need a structural designer, an architect, or whatever. Somebody else? No? Well, you need a lot of people. And those people are colleagues of us. And we are working in the Netherlands with 2,000 people, and we divided those 4,000 people in 5 categories. We call them business lines. And within those business lines, you will find groups of more or less between 50 and 100 people working with their own expertise. Libby and me, we are working on the left side of this diagram, and we are working together with structural designers, building physicists, electrical engineers, mechanical engineers. Those are people you need to engineer a building. But you need more. You also need people who manage. Um, you need people who, yeah, if you want to build or develop a building, you also need to do research, to archaeology, ecology, and the ground, soil, and environmental specialists. Those are all in this business line. Then you also need, well, we have our own architectural firm, CB5. In this case, we work together with the Consultant, but we also have 60 80 architects at this moment working for us. But you also need people who know something about infrastructural projects. These guys are working for mobility, but also permits, building permits. You need a lot of people. And, well, that's what I like. I can call my colleagues. And I'll mention if you're working in a small firm, you need to collaborate a lot with other companies. That's what we are doing as well in a lot of projects. But if you want, we have the one-stop shop in which all our colleagues are organized. Well, we are having offices all over the Netherlands, even all over the world. We're working together in an energy supply, so in every country we have companies in which we are more or less working together, but we also have our own offices in the darker parts of the world. The second project, the urban design, I told you it should be like a place in the forest. This is just after completion. It starts to grow a little bit more. The trees are becoming bigger. The ground is starting to mingle with the surroundings. It starts to become a really nice place. Then the museum, this is how it looks like nowadays if you go underground, but we are currently working on a new exhibition together with architects to make the world looks a little bit differently now. We have a little bit more knowledge, so we're going to redevelop this whole place under the ground. This is how it looks like on top of the ground. Chris Wittemans were the architects. Then if you go to the park, you pay your entrance fee. You have free transportation if you use the white bikes. And these bikes need to be repaired. And now I come to the most famous architect of the whole park, me, myself, and I. I used to study architecture here. Now I'm more or less a project manager. But sometimes you get a chance to still design something. And this is what I did. But I also thought, well, I know how to do this. And then the next day they asked me, Martin, can you make a drawing how we have to put the tiles, which which route would you like? Oh, we also need a counter. Can you design that? And well, in the end, everything is built over there, but it's something that I thought I could do while I was working here. But in the end, well, I lacked a little bit of experience in this field, but nevertheless, I got a chance and it's still there. So if you want to see it, go to the park. And I'm going to hand over the microphone to you.
So, for of course, if there are bikes, there are also biking paths. This is one of the biggest things that still needs to happen to the park. Is they're redoing some of the roads, they're removing some of the roads, and also making sure there's like different pavements. And in the end, they still have to do one of the entrances. But what the plan is, they want to go back to what it was used to be like. So more nature, less pavements like asphalt. So as you see here, if you look at the dotted lines, the roads were normally asphalt and they need to be removed and they will be stopped the roads with grain. So it's more like a nature experience instead of just a road. And they're also adding more biking paths and pedestrian paths to make sure that the experience of the nations is more focused instead of that it's also infrastructure where you cross it. So as you see, what do? We do the biking lanes, we do the, yeah, there we go. We do the pedestrian pass through all of the beautiful nature, and this is then of course in process. And now we are like at the moment, we also have to do redo the entries. So you're zooming in at this place. This is located in Otterlo. So there is a famous architect named Antea. This is doing the main entrance. So this, but this system behind the entrance is something we thought about. So where do you stop? Where do you place your car? How do you get your tickets? How many lights do you need? So really this thinking process of how can we make the entrance of the park more smooth for visitors, but also for people that are working there. That's what we think about. And then there's of course again this new famous architect that designs the place where you get your tickets.
Going from one entrance to the other, this is actually a project I'm currently working on. Well, we're working on. This is the other entrance in VELUWE. The park needs to have revenue, and well, you have the entrance fee, but they want to keep it as low as possible. So they are thinking about new business plans, and they are collaborating with a development party from Austria. They wanted to, well, they want to help to build a resort with a big, really big, well, 70 rooms in the middle, but also lodges all over the nation. And we're trying to fix this, but perhaps you've heard about the nitrogen problem here in the Netherlands. This is actually in the middle of the heart where everything is, well, quite difficult. But then they also ask us, can you help us to find a strategy how to deal with this plan and how we can realize it eventually? Yeah, this is where I'm working on. And how I work and how my work week looks like is a little bit shown here in this slide. My work week, you see here on the left, is quite diverse. Um, the yellow parts, Lily is going to tell about because those are projects all related to the park or in which we are collaborating. And yeah, if you look at it, at this moment, I'm working for the train company program. I'm working at stations like this here in Antwerp, for example. We want to make it more accessible, but I'm responsible for 40 projects in the Netherlands in which train stations are redeveloped, made more accessible. So I have a lot of meetings with my colleagues. There are 10 project managers working for me, and I have to, well, keep it more or less well, in focus. I'm also working on sustainable projects, but also a sustainability strategy for our group within our company, because well, there there are so many words, so many terms, so many tools with what is sustainability for us as Antea Group, and how are we going to organize ourselves. This is something I'm thinking about, but also trying to change within our company. So yeah, as you see, I still don't understand how it works at the end of the week that I do all those projects because it looks quite full. It is quite full, but this is what happens if you stop us after your graduation year. You start to work for 10 projects at the same time. And well, it's a little bit of switch. Here you're mainly focused on one project and perhaps a few courses that you take, but in real life you will be working on a lot of projects at the same time. And so is Lydia already.
Yes, so you do not have to wait till you're graduated to do this. In my last year of my bachelor, I started working at Antea Group during my BEP. Since I only had a few courses, and I was like, I can combine this with doing some experience. So what I do is I work 1.5 day in a week. So my Tuesdays are always full with visiting the projects, going to the office, and really seeing everyone. And then I have like half a day that I can do from home, where I really update all the files and artworks that we can do more of the administration work. And this can be very easy combined on your site, as you can see. So in order to see that I have my full days of lectures, and I have some workshops, and I have some meetings with committees that I'm still doing here. And then on my free time, I can just go to Antea Group, work there, and of course get some money. And then we also want to go through a day where me and Maarten are going to, of course, open. So this is my Tuesday and Maarten's Tuesday. So if we compare, I'm still a student, and Maarten always wakes up like really early, and I still sleep in. So I wake up at like 8:15 because I will be at the office at 9, and he's at the office at like 7. Um, so this is how my breakfast looks like. I just have a chill breakfast at home. He's always eating in the car. Then I take, of course, the train to the office. So our main office is in HOGE, which is pretty close to here, and we also have a hub at CH, which is very nice because that's super close for me. But today I was in Overview, of course, so I took the train, and Maarten took his car, his electric car, of course. And when we are on a project visit, so this was my first time visiting an Overview, because I'm from Brabant and I don't like to come above the river. But Mark showed me the locations and showed me um, the new projects and how I could help with the projects. So then we had like a preparation and the public weekend we just saw a presentation where I was at the main coaching room and Mark was in the chocolate milk because it was somewhat free. Then we had a meeting somewhere on the radio about the table and we just discussed and what's the difference in the meeting, like Martin's chairing the meeting and I will be taking notes and making sure that everything is like in the reports and that it's all communicated back to the responsible persons, sorting it and then making sure that everyone knows what their action points are for those meetings to make sure that the process is running smoothly. And we were talking to our next project. So next to the project of the VELUWE, I'm also working on the archive of data. So we went to a Mark's car, and I'm the person who brings us in the back, of course. Then we had a lunch meeting there, just at the municipality AM. And then we had a look. And so we are reviewing the archive and we're going to check some things because our engineers had some questions. So we went inside, made some pictures to make sure that we have all the information that we need to bring to our engineers to make sure that the process is again going smoothly. And then the rest of my day, I was working on putting everything in the files, working on the sustainability process that I'm also working on. And the day back home, I would take the train over full in the rushing hours, and I was also in the rushing hours, so also having a hard time getting home. And I think that's what it is to be an engineer on the senior level and also junior level. Are there any questions? So how I got to this company is actually the same as you guys are now. I had an activity in container group 3 years ago. That's how I met Maarten. And then again, there was like a fair, like the day, and I met him again, and I was saying, like, yeah, I'm looking for a place where I can be work for students, and he said, hey, come have a coffee with me, and we can talk about it, and then you just apply, and you put an email to the company saying, like, I would love to become a work student, and this are my interests, and then they're just gonna look if there's a fit. So you would probably have some meetings with other people to see if it's a match. And if it's a match, there's like no problem, you can start like as well. Yeah.
Perhaps in addition to it, actually what she's saying is take some initiative. And this is how it will continue if you are within the company, our company at least, but within a lot of companies in the Netherlands which are quite big. If you show some initiative, you speak out what you like, what you love, what you want to do, sometimes already the first step, you can have a really prosperous future. But if you stay quiet, waiting, nobody's going to ask you, will you come to work for us? And nobody is also later going to give you the projects that you would like. So, Libby, she can pretty well express herself. Well, she probably can send me. So we're doing a really nice project, but it doesn't go forever. Somebody else? No?
Well, again, that was the lunch lecture for today. Thank you all for joining. We will be on the schedule